Hey viewers and friends, Andrew back again and welcome to another video. And for this video I'm going to be talking about some of my favourite 80s kid and family movies. This decade was absolutely fantastic for this genre of movie, and it's one of my favourite genres of film. Obviously I grew up with these kind of movies and I still absolutely love them to this day. So this is a video response to The Horror Man, or Joe's kid and family movies from the 80s and 90s. I've decided to do this video in two parts. This one's covering the 80s, and then probably next week or so I'll be doing a kid and family movies from the 90s. There's just way too many to talk about to include it in one video. So let's get started. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen most of the movies I'm about to show. That's not really the point of the video though. I'm just wanting to share my passion with everyone. There's probably bound to be a few that you haven't seen, so yeah, let's get into it. Oh yeah, and if you're not subscribed to Joe, I'll be leaving his channel link in the description box below. Please check him out, he is well worth subscribing to. So there's only two horror themed movies for this one, so we'll get those out of the way first. The first one is Gremlins. Absolute classic. I believe I watched this one at a fairly young age, and I mean it is a really good one for the younger audience to get into, but still one that adults can enjoy as well. The second one is probably my favourite kid or family themed horror, and that's The Monster Squad. If you haven't checked this one out, you absolutely need to, and I'd recommend picking it up on Blu-ray if you can. Great transfer, and it is stacked with a bunch of special features. Yeah, this movie is just an absolute classic. Great representation of the 80s, from everything from the clothing to the music, everything really. Just, yeah, one of my favourites definitely. The next one is fairly underrated, I think, and never gets mentioned too many times, and that is The Wizard, starring Fred Savage. I think this came out in about 1989, around the time when Super Mario Bros. 3 came out. Basically this is a giant Nintendo commercial. Even so, it is fantastic. It's pure 80s at its best. The clothing, great soundtrack. And yeah, just a ton of fun, especially if you grew up playing the old classic Nintendo games. This one is definitely recommended. The next one is War Games. This is a 2-pack with a sequel, terrible sequel. But anyway, War Games with Matthew Broderick. Excellent movie. This is kind of a little bit more teenage focused, I guess you'd say. But still, it's a really good family sort of sci-fi, computer technology based movie. So if you haven't checked this one out, I'd recommend it. Again, this is a underrated 80s movie, I think. The next one is one that I can watch over and over again, and funnily enough it was one that I never really got into much growing up, but absolutely adore it now, and that is Explorers with Ethan Hawke and River Phoenix. Real shame about River Phoenix. He was a great actor, especially back when he was a child. Fantastic performances. But anyway, Explorers, this is just a fun sci-fi adventure about three young kids who are building a spaceship, and they take off into space and discover aliens. You know, just ton of fun, great adventure, sort of anything's possible if you believe type storyline, and yeah, really good. The next one is kind of similar. In fact, there was a lot of great sort of kid and family sci-fi movies back in the 80s. I really miss those. So the next one is Flight of the Navigator. This is a slightly more popular one. I do hear this get mentioned quite a bit. This is really good, about a young boy who, I think he falls in the woods after trying to find his little brother, and he sort of gets knocked out. and he's basically stuck as a child, and then I don't know how many years go past, like 8 or 10 years or something maybe, and he's sort of been kept at this scientific centre for research or something, and eventually he escapes and goes back to his family, which of course have aged like 8 or 10 years, but he's still the same age, and basically to him no time has passed at all. But yeah, really, really good. I absolutely love the robot at the end who helps him navigate the spaceship back home. E.T., what can I say about this movie that I haven't said before or numerous others have said about it? Absolutely fantastic. This is my favourite Steven Spielberg movie, and yeah, it gets several viewings every year from me. Absolute classic. I'm sure everyone has seen it. If you haven't, what are you doing? Check it out immediately. This is also getting a Blu-ray release this year, which I cannot wait for. The next one is a really, really underrated high school sports movie called Lucas. This one is, yeah, majorly underrated, and I do not know why. This is a brilliant 80s movie, great music, got that great sort of classic 80s feel. I think it came out in 1985. No, 1986. But yeah, it's definitely gone under the radar. And it's got a great cast. You've got Corey Haim, Charlie Sheen, Kerry Green, who was in the Goonies, and Winona Ryder. Really, really good. Again, this one's slightly more teenage focused, about Lucas, who's sort of the outcast at high school, and basically to win the affections of the Kerry Green character, he joins the football team. The next one I don't think I've ever heard anyone talk about before, and it is Cloaking Dagger. This one stars Henry Thomas, who was in E.T. Yeah, I wouldn't say it is an absolutely amazing one, and it's certainly not one of my all-time favourites, but I definitely wanted to include it in this video, and it is a good little movie. Henry Thomas plays Davey, who's sort of obsessed with a game called Cloaking Dagger, and kind of gets involved with a couple of criminals who are trying to track him down and track the game down. Well worth checking out if you haven't seen it, or if you've never heard of it before, definitely IMDb it. The next one is Short Circuit with Five Alive, Johnny Five. Great movie, one that I grew up on, and one that I do still enjoy, although I haven't seen it in quite some time now. But yeah, great movie. Again, this is one of the more sort of popular ones, so I'm sure everyone has seen it. If you haven't, and you're a fan of kid and sort of family sort of sci-fi based robot movies, check it out. The next one is The Neverending Story. This is probably my favourite fantasy movie of all time. I love it. Brilliant performance from, is it Oliver Barrett? No, Barrett Oliver. Got them mixed up. He was also in d.a.r.y.l, which I'm going to mention later. This is a great movie. Again, I'm sure most people have seen it. But yeah, definitely my favourite fantasy movie of all time. Love it. The next one is another sort of fantasy-based movie called Labyrinth. This one was really, really good. Stars David Bowie and Jennifer Connelly, with puppetry from Jim Henson. The puppets look really, really good. This is kind of a slightly more darker than The Neverending Story. Again, I'm sure everyone's heard of it and seen it. The next one is The Karate Kid. I can remember seeing this fairly early on. I'm pretty sure I rented it out on VHS, and you know, it's been televised. I've seen it a lot over the years, and yeah, it still holds that classic status for me, and I still love it. The next one is just a perfect representation of a really, really classic and fantastic coming of age story. And that's Stand By Me. Absolutely amazing cast. Will Wheaton, River Phoenix, Jerry O'Connell and Corey Feldman, and it also stars Kiefer Sutherland. Yeah, absolutely amazing cast. I was sort of in two minds about including this one. It did come out in the 80s, but it's actually set in, is it the 50s? Yeah, I think so. Well, it's not set in the 80s, but I mean, it came out in the 80s, so you'd still classify it as an 80s movie. But I absolutely love it. I loved it as much now as I did the first time I saw it. I've seen this movie numerous times. Yeah, absolutely amazing. If you haven't seen it, please check it out. The next one is A Christmas Story. This is really, really good. Definitely my favourite Christmas movie. And yeah, again, I'm pretty sure this came out in the 80s, but I don't think it was set in the 80s. No, it was set in the 1940s. But still wanted to include it. The next one is The Last Starfighter. I'm sure a lot of people have heard about this movie, but I kind of think it's one of the more underrated or definitely less talked about family sci-fi movies from there. I absolutely love it. Definitely one of my favourite sci-fi movies from the 80s, and it was one that I only saw for the first time fairly recently. I never grew up on this movie, so it has aged well, and it definitely has that classic 80s feel to it. So if you haven't seen this one, I highly, highly recommend checking it out, and some really, really good special effects as well. Okay, now we are down to two of my absolutely favourite 80s movies ever. The first one is BMX Bandits. This is my favourite Australian movie. This is pretty much the Australian equivalent to the Goonies. Now, to my surprise, there's a lot of people here on YouTube, especially Australian YouTubers, that haven't checked this out yet. So guys, if you haven't checked it out, especially Australian guys, I highly, highly recommend it. I do think it has aged pretty well. It holds up well, in my opinion. I mean, I absolutely love the 80s, so to me this movie is fantastic. It's definitely got that sort of more cheesy, corny 80s feel to it, so just keep that in mind. But yeah, absolutely love it. BMX Bandits. Then my favourite movie of all time is The Goonies. I'm sure everyone has seen it. If you haven't, check it out. What the hell is wrong with you? I'm not going to talk about this movie because I've talked about it in numerous other videos. My favourite movie of all time, enough said, love it. There's a few other movies that I've seen in the past that I don't actually own. I don't think they are available on DVD. Well, one is, but it's out of print. That is d.a.r.y.l. That also stars Barrett Oliver. Great sort of sci-fi movie. Really, really good. So if you haven't checked that one out, I highly recommend it. Another really good one was The Dirt Bike Kid. I've got fond memories of renting that out from my local video store. Really, really good times. I know that that's only available on VHS. Another one is Ruskies, which stars the kid from A Christmas Story, and he was also in Dirt Bike Kid. Never hear anyone mention that movie, but that was really, really good. I enjoyed that. Then another one is the Star Wars, the two Ewok movies, the Caravan of Courage, and yeah, the other name escapes me now. I actually saw them before I even saw the Star Wars movies, but they were great, and that DVD is long out of print as well. So that's it for this video. I am nearly at the 15-minute mark, so I will cut it off now. Hope everyone's enjoyed it. Guys, please get some video responses happening. I'd love to see what your favourite kid and family movies are from the 80s. Subscribe to Joe, and thanks for watching.